forget the record button.
Boom, 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 boom. Hey there, friend. Welcome to Best Boys, the film podcast. An amateur film study podcast for the average Joe, the buffest buffs, and the cringiest bingers. I'm your host, JP, and I'm joined by my brother, professional Hollywood videographer,
Kory with a story. Welcome back, everyone. This is inside the actor's studio.
What do we got on the docket today, Kory?
Today we've got two, I'm going to say wonderful films brought to you by acclaimed director Kenneth Branagh from Thor fame.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets, yeah. And all the Shakespearean movie adaptations, which honestly did not know he starred in it until I flipped it on. And
you didn't? Because, he stars in the first few of his movies. Or his big Shakespeare ones. I think he stars in all of them.
Yeah, and I have some notes about that I think are kind of funny. But, yeah, it's a good time. It's a period piece with a nice little semi-autobiographical tale of his youth.
Yeah, so my experience with the Kenster, I think I first saw Much Ado About Nothing in high school, for some kind of Shakespeare thing, and I remember it being really interesting, but I think everyone was kind of just riffing on it too much to get to really watch it, but I remember the casting was always really interesting to me, and I haven't seen really much beyond that, but I've always been interested. I've seen not quite a bit, but I've seen a few Shakespeare things, and I've had experience with reading some Shakespeare. That's the basics at least. This guy's obviously got a love for the stage and Shakespeare in particular, and they say that he's the best, has been the best at adapting Shakespeare to the screen. That's always been his reputation. So I've always been interested in coming back to the ones that I've seen and the ones that I haven't, and rediscovering that for myself.
Yeah, this was got me a little bit more encouraged to watch the other ones, because I thought this was, while there are points in this that are a bit slow, it was definitely interesting to.
We're talking about Belfast. You're talking about?
Oh, I was talking about.
Sorry, I'm not able to help.
The make me want to go back and watch more of the other Shakespearean ones, because it's very interesting how it's done, because it still feels like a play, but it's more than that. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah. So Belfast, so we can talk about that. Or before we do, what's your Shakespeare experience?
Not a lot. Just whatever we did in high school. I was well known as not a reader. I don't think I finished my first book, outside of school, until a couple years ago. But I think if Julius Caesar's Shakespeare, I've read that in school.
I've seen that and read it.
And then just Romeo and Juliet and parts of Hamlet. But I nothing from Macbeth or anything like that.
I know. I knew Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, and I've read, and Julius Caesar I've read. And I've seen Julius Caesar, and I think I've seen Romeo and Juliet. But yeah, that's about it for me. So it's not that much different, really.
Was your Romeo and Juliet movie choice the Leonardo DiCaprio one?
That doesn't count.
The nice edgy.
That's not I mean, that's good. I like that movie. I will defend that movie. But as far as an actual, does it count as experiencing Shakespeare? I think nay.
Yeah, that was so weird, because they kept the old Shakespearean dialogue, but it's all modern. It's just so wild. So many guns.
Yeah. No, I like that movie though. I've always liked that movie. So all right, let's talk about Belfast.
All right, diving in. What did you think of it off the top? What are your first? I
think the best way to describe it is Oscar bait. And I think it's like quintessential Oscar bait, where it is a very good movie, but maybe it's like, people like hype it up a little more than it actually is that good. I think that's kind of where it's at for me. I usually like all the movies to get nominated for best picture, but there's always some that are like, okay, yeah, this is very good, but it's not on the level of art for me as some of these other ones. And I kind of think that's where it's at. Like, I think I like The French Dispatch a lot more than this, for example. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to get nominated for anything like Grand Budapest did.
Yeah.
But
I can agree with you on that.
But this was a really, really good slice of life film about a boy growing up, and I think you mentioned it. It's semi-autobiographical about Kenneth Branagh's life. My experience with Kenneth Branagh, I forgot to mention. I mainly, like I said, know him from Harry Potter. That was my first experience. I've seen him in other things, but I think that was like what burned the actor's face into my brain because of growing up. And then I've seen Thor, but I forgot to mention that as well. So it was interesting. I don't really have any kind of attachment to him though as a human being. So I was kind of didn't give a shit that if it was about him. So I was trying to just enjoy it as a movie and what it was. And I did really like it. I really like the slice of life parts. Which is a lot of it, but the boy, the kid who plays Jude Hill, I believe his name is Buddy. He's a really good kid actor. I think that he might have the Jojo Rabbit kid beat as my favorite kid actor of Best Boys. I guess it's either him or you got the kid from Boy.
He's really good too. You got to call the award the Best Boy award. Then.
The Best Boy award. I think Jude Hill is in my front running. Yeah, we'll have to do Best Boy awards at some point. Maybe around Oscar season.
Yeah.
And he was really good. The rest of the cast is great, and it's kind of this movie's not carried by its cast, but that they convey a lot of the emotion. Buddy's mother, played by I don't know if I'm going to say this right, Kytriona Mary Balfe. She's Irish. The mom is an excellent performance. Judi Dench as well as the grandmother has an excellent performance, and she's in both of these movies. But it's wild to see her in the 80s and then see her today, and she's in her 80s.
Yeah,
and
I didn't even know it was Judi Dench until after till the credits.
She's very old.
Yeah,
and then Ciarán Hinds is obviously excellent as the grandfather, which I know him. I actually recognize that actor first from Game of Thrones. He's a character on Game of Thrones. You're gonna have to watch Game of Thrones because there's a lot of good actors, a lot of good British actors on that show. They just get the deep cuts, HBO is so good at casting. I've decided that I am an HBO stan as far as their shows.
I am.
It's the best shows ever, all of them. Not all of them, but they have a consistently good crop.
Yeah, they are so high, and I can say this knowing some of the internal stuff, but they're so highly curated, and it's to the benefit of the network.
That's good. There's not enough of that in media, and it's good that it's commercially viable. But anyways, digressing. The cast is excellent. I think the cinematography also is really good.
Yes,
some of it is a little bit paint, rain on a flowering can, grayscale. I feel like we've all seen a stock photo that looks like that. But the sound design I thought was good in those moments as well with the rain and stuff. I liked all of that. The one thing that I saw a critique of this, and I don't know if I adopted this opinion or I just wanted to echo it because I thought it was interesting. So take it with a grain of salt. But they brought up the editing, that there were some moments that maybe could have sat longer, that in other indie movies they might have put it a little bit more of a slower burn. This doesn't burn too slow. It is a indie slice of life. When I say that, there's like some level of slow burn to it. But I compare this movie to something like Minari, which is also another slice of life film, like trying to make it in a weird time and or a new world or whatever. And I think that's something that separates this film. That separates Minari from something like this. Is like that's another. There's like more power from the movie. I don't know. Like I did have a lot of emotion and connection to this movie. I will like it resonated with me in a way, but at the same time, there were things that would happen. There was a few particular scenes that I thought were a little over the top. We talked about the politics beforehand, and I will let you go and get in and say some stuff. But I think that the politics was a big part of the movie, and I think that's where the movie. I was interested in the history and the things happening, but there were just scenes, particularly the guy who plays Billy Clanton, the asshole gang, like union, I don't know, gang guy in town. And
the guy trying to like wrangle Protestants together.
Yeah. I wasn't crazy about his performance, and some of the scenes later on the movie were cheesy. And the final scene with him and the dad, or him versus the dad, was very cheesy. And that's kind of like that scene in particular is kind of like my problems with the movie as a whole. Which is not huge. It's like not that it makes it a bad movie to me. Like I said, it's very good, and I think it's near great. But this stuff like that takes it down a little bit for me. What do you want to think?
Well, piggybacking off of that, I definitely can see that for the ending. It's very much kind of like you feel like, all right, this is just a movie kind of ending.
The dance scenes I also didn't like. I thought the dancing scene was cheesy. Just the way it was done. I don't know, like it wasn't like it was fine. Like I was fine with it, but it was this thing. Like I thought it could have ended in a more impactful way.
Yeah, I don't know. I just overall, I just enjoyed it, and but my overall thing, like coming out of the movie, was just like this is one of the easiest watches I think for a person, because coming in at 130 or not 130, an hour and 37 minutes. It is. I feel like that's such a sweet spot, like hour 45, just under around there anymore. Especially after all these like crazy long 2.5 hour movies and things like that. But the acting in this and the cast being like of who it is and how they all work together is just like butter. Every word, and I know that's partially because the Irish accents to me just sound so smooth and just like run on. But it's just like, even in the tense scenes, like there's not yelling, it's just like very stern, straight, like very subdued line delivery, and it's just not in a way how Wes Anderson's are like visually satisfying. That was just very auditorially satisfying to listen to, like all the dialogue in the film. But speaking of the actor performances, though, I think any scene that had the boy with the grandfather and the grandmother was one of the greatest scenes, some of the greatest scenes I've seen in cinema for that kind of stuff. That it was just so well done and felt so natural. It just I don't know, it just reminded me of like when we were kids talking to Pap.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the scenes with the grandfather and the grandmother. I just want to splurt this out while I got it on my mind. The scene with the Judi Dench is in the window. The grandpap is on is like at the workbench, and the kid's sitting on the outside toilet, and they're like having a conversation. And it's like they all can't see each other, but because everything's so close. And you're all living, near each other, that everyone hears what everyone else is doing, and you see that. I thought it was really, really that was a really cool shot. And I thought it was a really good scene. It was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Just everything. The bickering between the grandparents I always thought was really cute and adorable, but everything that the grandpa says to Buddy is like it's joking and fun, but it also is like solid advice things in there, and just very encouraging of just being yourself kind of stuff, especially when it comes to him trying to get the girl that he likes them to sit next to each other and him to ask her out. It was just so good, and I think like the scenes like that is just what sold me so much on this movie, and the stuff with the grandpa getting sick later pulled on the heartstrings, and I know this is what makes it more Oscar baity, but it hit me, and it hit me so good. teared up so much, and when a movie does that, it's such a great feeling, not to be sad, but to just like emote and feel something just from a an experience of being there. Um, but yeah, so you brought up the cinematography earlier, and I loved every part about this. I love that everything was just small head in the bottom middle of the frame with just
I love
big
that.
wide behind.
The scene with the boy talking to the grandfather, and they're both of their heads are in the bottom right corner, but they're on different sides of the the table or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, even like the head-on ones, whenever the dad is talking to the Protestant gang guy, and you just see like the sky. You're able to see the sky, the entirety of the house, everyone behind him in the family, and just his head and just the bottom little bit. But even though he's such a small part of the frame, the dialogue delivery, you still get that intense and from the performance of it, and it's just such a cool way to balance out the visual. And make it look unique, but still have the right impact and still convey what you need it to convey. Because it's hard, every how the frame looks and any subtle changes can completely change how a scene is conveyed. And definitely thought that was super cool. Might steal it for some stuff later.
No, that's cool. That's what it's all about, baby. Yeah. I liked the cinematography was great. What did you think about that the editing critique about you could have had it dwell on some of these moments a little longer and like pace it more slowly, take its time, and then it could have been a 2-hour movie and it could have took its time a little bit with some of this stuff. But yeah, what do you think about that?
I don't think that I necessarily like when I left. I didn't feel that way. In looking back on it, there's definitely the only things I would want to be a little bit longer are just the stuff with the boy and the grandfather.
Yeah, I agree. That's all I.
But
good.
I was gonna say other than that, I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine paced. I like the time. Maybe bump it up to 1:45, hour 45, with just a little bit more, more intimate, heartfelt stuff between the boy and the grandfather before he passes, and I think it's solid as it is. Do you agree with that sentiment? I know you mentioned earlier that you were just echoing it.
I don't know if I want it to be longer, but I also because I was honestly surprised that I did thought it dragged at one point, about 3/4. Right before the big riot happened. I was like starting to okay, I thought this was a short movie, it should be wrapping up soon, and there was still a decent amount of movie even after that because the dancing, and then I did we forgot to mention this, with the intro and the outro were of in color of modern Belfast, and even though there was a cheat, I don't know, it's I loved it, but also thought it looked kind of 2000s at the same time. The font they used was very 2000s to me. But not in a bad way. It just, I think it was an aesthetic, and I I didn't know if I liked it or not, and I think I ended up really liking it. I didn't have a problem with that. But
real quick, speaking of the color, how did you feel about how anytime anything went to any kind of TV,
we should talk about that.
Was in black and white.
I think it's supposed to be how signifies how Kenneth used that as an escape, and that was how he got into the film and entertainment and stage, and because it was all about being captivated with going to the movies and seeing theater and what have you, because his family took him to that a lot to escape all the shit on the streets and getting caught up into the gangs. There was a whole lot of talk, stay out of the gangs, boys, stay out of the gangs, and there's always constantly the gang showing up trying to recruit them to do errands, and then his cousin thought they were gonna recruit him to a fun little cute gang and just steal candy and stuff, and then later on you just find out that he's with the whole big ass mob, and it was kind of I liked how they did that. It was very abrupt, but it was also that's why I keep saying that I think the politics was such a through line, because it was just a connective tissue through a lot of it. It might not have been on the surface, it was about the family and it was about them struggling, and it's kind of the average trope story of a struggling family trying to figure it out. and the politics and the setting is what made it kind of different. It was kind of like a movie about race without race. And just two groups of white people, just different religions,
Yeah.
but kind of the same tropes kind of happen a little bit. And I think that's to the movie's benefit, but also a little bit to the movie's detriment. And I really was fascinated by getting a glimpse of it in the beginning, especially. I really liked the opening of the film. The first 45 minutes, I was like a breeze to me. Like I was very interested, and I was very, very into it. And then there just got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm ready to see the ride. Like, let's get this big ride over with, because they were obviously building it up, because they're patrolling and waiting for it to happen again. So I want to talk about the riot scene when you're ready, but is there anything you want to discuss about other than that?
Yeah, two things real quick. Going back to the color thing, it's similar to what you're saying, but I read it as like hope, if that makes sense. Like anything that had color on like the TVs and stuff was like, because the real world sucks. Everyone's poor, no one has work, everything's falling apart, and so it's black and white and bleak. But everything that's on TV is fiction and a fantasy.
It's fantasy and escape, yeah.
And so it's like a hope of this is what your life, you want life to be or whatever, but it's like enough to go through. But the other thing I wanted to say was, I think another came off enjoying this movie so much was, so when I saw this in the theater, I was the youngest person in that room by about 30 years.
Me and Riss were definitely the youngest people there also.
There was I would say it was about somewhere between like a third and half filled. And it was all old Irish people, and they laughed at every single Irish related thing. And like that, like seeing all these people like having a good time and smiling about it, like, kind of like helps your mood and enjoying it and getting into it. And that was just, I don't know, it was very interesting just watching like these older people who have probably been there and have or have family who have grown up in this time or whatever, and they're just getting to see like a modern take of it. It was super cool. Just enhanced the experience.
The black and white makes it feel really old, but it's the 60s. And like the 60s are old now, that is like that's the oldies now. And it's a long time ago, but yeah, these people grew up in the 60s, are getting old. Kenneth Branagh, I think's in his 60s, I would imagine.
Yeah. But he looked great in the panel I watched him at. I'm not sure what his exact age is, but I would be
he's
shocked
60 he's 60 on the dot.
Wow. He looks great for 60.
I will say I wasn't crazy about the dad's performance. It wasn't bad. It just isn't doing anything for me, and he was getting overshadowed by all these other people kicking ass. And it was like, I think everyone else was so good that he just didn't seem like he was on the same level as them.
Yeah.
Isn't he the 50 Shades of Grey? He's the 50 Shades of Grey guy, isn't he?
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah, I didn't even realize that. Damn, what a guy.
Yeah, he's Christian Grey.
But I was gonna say because he doesn't have nearly as much screen time as everyone else because he's always off working. But I thought he mixed well when he is doing the scenes when the arguments with his wife. That's so good. She kills it. She carries the scenes definitely.
Your mom's so good.
But like when she's like screaming, talking about how she wrote a letter to make sure that there was no more taxes, and then they found more taxes to pay, and she's just screaming in the fight. That whole thing was just so like fucked up because she was just trying to do a good thing, and then it made everything worse. But no one's handling it well. There's so many good scenes in this movie. But I'm ready. Yeah, if you want to talk about the riot scene, I have a couple notes on that, but I'll let you start.
Yeah, I think the riot scene's the weakest part. The second riot is the weakest part of the movie. I did like it at first. I laughed when the mom dragged Buddy back to the store. Like I think I think we've all had a moment like that with our moms. And I really like that, and the cousin stuff was funny. But then so the final showdown is between Billy Clanton, the leader of the gangs, and the dad and the son, the other Buddy's brother, which we hadn't really talked about. And So they're having a showdown. Okay, whatever. But then all of a sudden, the riot police on both sides just line up perfectly behind them on each end. It was like the French Dispatch. Like, but they did it in that shit for like comics, like for comical effect and for like framing and all that kind of stuff. But this felt like a music video. This felt like a music video, like I was like Linkin Park video or something. And there's just riot police on both sides while the band's like rocking out. Take everything. Yeah, that video. Yeah, that video. Okay, stop. Please stop. Yeah, no more. We'll get you get copy ID'd for that shit.
Sorry.
So then the dad, Billy Clanton pulls out a gun. He's gonna shoot the dad, and the dad's like, "Okay, don't." And he's gonna try to stop him. The brother throws the dad a brick. The dad, it's poorly edited. It's really bad. It's poorly edited. He throws the brick, and we're supposed to assume that he hits the gun out of his hand with the brick, or out of the way.
Isn't he holding his wife or somebody hostage?
Yeah. He's holding Buddy hostage.
Then who threw the brick at his dad?
The brother. The brother gave the brick to the dad, and the dad threw the brick at the asshole guy, the Merlin. Apparently, that guy plays Merlin on the show Merlin.
Oh. But yes, okay. Sorry, I know what you're talking about now. But
I hated that. Hated that whole thing. After I was like, this movie's awesome. This movie's great, and then this movie that scene right there just dropped it a whole star for me.
Now, I wonder if the movie's from the buddy's perspective. I wonder if it's just one of those like it's how a child would remember it. Like I know what you mean about the editing on that. That was something that was a little bit kind of like we know what it's supposed to be, so we'll go with it, but it's not the cleanest thing. But I wonder if it's just like how a boy would remember it, where it's like this big heroic moment where you're seeing your dad do something like super heroic.
Yeah. Me and Riss actually talked about this. Like,
yeah.
I was just gonna say the style. So this movie like randomly has the style in it, that comes out with the colored stuff, and like these like Riss brought up that in the beginning that there was a lot of low angles for how things were shot because I think it was supposed to be like from the kids' perspective, like the level of a child, and I thought it was a really good observation. And that would kind of make sense why this thing is so theatrical at the end, the showdown, because because it's his perspective of how it is. There's lines of riot police all around us, and my dad's got to save the day, and for some reason the cops just lets them go after that. But I guess I'm now seeing that you pointed out and thinking about what Riss said, but I think ultimately it doesn't work for me.
Gotcha.
And I think the movie it's like if it wants to dabble with that kind of style, it would have needed to go a little further. It's just not, it didn't dip its toes in far enough. And then what you have is a largely normal, pretty normal slice of life film with these like moments of style that come up that aren't like so crazy that like blow your mind, like Mulholland Drive when the Goblin Man's around the corner, like that kind of shit. It's nothing like that, and not that this movie needs that, but I think if they wanted to get away with that excuse in that scene, I think they would have needed to go harder into that and other moments, more moments.
Agreed. Yeah, I agreed. I was gonna say if that was like a staple of the thing, is just like the phantasmal, I think that's the right word. Just like the overall just fantasies that kids create and how they remember things and how things
perspective.
Exactly, there it is, perspective. Because all of this movie, like they don't pull the punches on all of like the gritty stuff that happens in front of the kids and stuff. There is no like, anything like that. If you're gonna keep that kind of realism, it does feel a little bit out of place at the end there. I personally didn't mind it, but I totally see the critique of that, and it totally makes sense. But for me, it's not enough to like hate the scene, but it's definitely like my whole thing was just like none of it felt big enough in that scene. Like the riot and everything, there was a lot of people and they broke in or whatever, and then it kind of goes gets brought down to a silliness whenever the mom comes in with the kids to return the
Yeah,
stuff.
it felt like it was
And
about to
then-
get big, and then it kind of fizzled.
And then you just go from silliness. It tries to bring it back up to the high stakes, but you've already deflated the situation by having this joke thing happen.
And well, then you have this ridiculous thing happen after that with this brick thing, and it's. I like the mom thing, but
do it, Dad.
Yeah, do it, Paul. Get him, Paul. That's what it felt like.
Because to every single person just saying,
this guy's got a fucking gun.
Well, as there's like 30-40 seconds of slow motion brick going. Oh, man.
But yeah. But like that, and I think I was sour. So then the dancing scene I thought was a little cheesy, and then
I barely remembered the dancing scene was so insignificant. I forgot about it.
Well, because it didn't matter. Because that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like this is just nothing, and it's cheese. It's
The movie
schmaltz.
the movie should have just ended on Judi Dench's face when they drove away on the bus.
I think so. That's how I felt. I was like, this movie should end now, and then go to the present day, and I think that would have been a better ending. I think the dancing scene took away. It's not bad. It's not done bad. It just felt like they did a lot of like the lens flare kind of thing, and like the like jazz band kind of thing, and it just felt like it was a funeral and they're celebrating, but but it was weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't like, I didn't hate it, but also it just felt like not the way to end it.
I would have rather had like fast forward just even if it was only like 4 or 5 years to whenever the grandma passes and the boy's just going back to Belfast and just looking around her like as a teenager or an adult at this point and just looking back on all the places like where he grew up now that everybody's gone and what's left of it or something. I feel like that might.
Well, I think that's what seeing Belfast today. That's what that's supposed to do in a more abstract way. Like because the movie is not about this family. Or about Kenneth Branagh. The movie's about Belfast.
Yeah.
And so we sit in that. There is a shot of the old city, and then we see it new. And I think that would have been really good to do. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. But
There's something to connect because the biggest connection in that film is the boy with the grandparents. So I feel like going back to that in a past, like where is it now?
I think it was assumed that she'll be gone too by the time he comes back.
For sure. There's no way she was 100% going to be gone.
Yeah.
But good movie.
What are you giving Belfast?
Out of the theater, I said 4.5, but after talking about it, I'm at a 4.
I feel like I always talk you down.
You do. I ride a high when I leave the theater, and then you bring up things I don't really think about at the time because I'm just like kind of into it. You know?
I think that's fine. I debated on between a 3.5 or a 4. I think I'm settling on a 3.5, but it is like it's like a 3.75. It's almost a 4. And honestly, I don't know, the right day, I could talk myself into a 4 right now, even. It could really go either way for me.
This is definitely a movie that I could easily rewatch at any point. Like there's some of the movies we watch where it's like I'll rewatch it, but maybe not for like a year or a couple months or something like that. I could put this on right now and be cool with it if it was on streaming. But having said that, I know it's not a 5. It's not a Minari. I know it's not a.
Yeah, Minari is such a good comparison to this movie because they do a lot of similar things, and just like a cultural slice of life thing. And I think Minari is an example of a near perfect version of the genre, but this is still a really, really, really good one. And it's definitely not that hard of a watch, and it's not like the runtime makes it easy too. But yeah, all right. So
taking it back in time.
Yeah, we're going back in time. We're going back in time.
I was trying to think of something to say in a Shakespearean words, but honestly, that shit is so hard. I thought I knew this made it even harder to recreate after watching this.
I had some
a translator.
I had some issues with reading Shakespeare in high school, as all kids do, because it's like it's so dry, the language. Riss is apparently really into Shakespeare, but she wasn't familiar with his story. She said she wasn't as into his historicals, was the quote. So, but she didn't watch this with me. I watched this on my own. Yeah, I really was surprised at how easy of a watch it was. The format was really entertaining. It has style. The cast is like stacked. The cast is stacked. It's pretty entertaining, because I think like, even when you're bogged down by the dry dialogue and you don't understand what they're talking about, the film is really good about telling you with the showing. You know, like it's like even when it's like foreign language, you understand what's happening because you are seeing things happen. And there's a lot of talking in this film for sure, but they do such a good job of illustrating what's happening, and it really helps you follow along much better than just reading it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it works so well.
I originally wrote down that for the first half of the movie, I felt like it was more they said more than showed. But like up until the point where we get to the princess of the King of France, when she's getting her hair done and learning the English stuff.
They are, but because it's like it's a play. You have to remember that it is a play.
Oh, for sure. But I guess being an adaptation, it could go one of two ways, where it's more like strict, like it's gonna feel like a play throughout the whole thing, or it's gonna more feel like a movie that just has like the DNA and the backbone.
Yeah, these are very they're supposed to be very faithful adaptations. That's what his thing is.
Yeah, at one point I was nervous though that the battle was just going to be through the narrator guy and we weren't actually going to see it or anything, but I was very happy that definitely brought things back up.
I was aware of the battle. I was aware that it's supposed to be really badass, and his speeches all around the battle are really good.
Yeah,
and
even if you have to sit through 15 minutes of Kenneth Branagh before the battle starts,
he's actually
Crispin Day.
His monologues are pretty dope there, and I was exposed to that through a D&D YouTuber named Matt Colville. He did like streams talking about movies that inspired his campaigns and things like that, and how to structure narratives. And he brought up this movie and how it's one of his favorite movies. And he played the Crispin Day speech, and how it's like one of his favorite scenes from a movie. And then it made me think about if we ever, it made me want to watch Kenneth Branagh. And then this movie Belfast coming out, and we needed a movie to watch. It's like, oh, well, it's two birds, one stone then.
Yeah, it worked perfect.
He's young in this movie too.
Very young. Well, he looks very
young. He looks very
young.
I think he's got to be late 20s, early 30s at the latest.
Yeah, because he's got a little bit of wrinkling in the eyes. But
he's 60 now, and that's
89.
32 years ago. So yeah, he was in his
28.
20s. He was in his 20s.
I gotta say, for being in your because being essentially my age, and like writing and directing this and starring in it, or writing, I should say, adapting, and then
this is his big breakout.
This is nuts. This is so like I have some funny notes in here that I'll talk. I want to talk about when we specifically talk about the battle part of the movie. But man, he is just going in on so much of this, and I did not think it would be that good with his delivery.
Oh my god, his acting is it's over the top, like but
yeah,
it's,
in a great way.
But it's like Shakespearean over the top, like you see people really get into a theater scene, and they're like, yes, they are.
Yeah, I worked with a lot of actors that have like come from theater before in the past, and it's a struggle because a lot of people can't translate, because in theater it's all about the big, so the people in the back of the audience can still get it, but for the movie it's all for film it's all about subtlety. And I feel like this was a nice in between the two, because it felt real, and it felt so like inspiring and just big and build up and just such a crescendo. And every speech that Kenneth Branagh did, and every act of this movie that he's in, he has this same like crescendo build up into something.
He starts off soft. He's like, honestly, you know who is very reminiscent of it is in The Knight's Tale, Paul Bettany's character.
Yeah.
He does that same thing where he's really soft. And he just starts building and building, and he's like a writer, and he's very Shakespearean the way he talks. I don't know if
Oh,
that's a direct influence on the performance, but man, that's what it reminded me of, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll fight with this guy. I'll fight
the
for you, King.
My only issue with the things though is a lot of, and it didn't happen, but a lot of these when he starts going off, I guess monologuing, he'll I think, like, to me, I would say he hits peak crescendo, and he screams or whatever, and then he comes back down and he starts talking again, and which is fine, but then it rebuilds up.
Well, yeah,
and
that's
it
how
makes it feel long.
Yeah, that's how the Geoffrey Chaucer speeches were in Knight's Tale, but I think they're shorter, so you don't get fatigued.
Yeah, I felt like
Um,
when it hit its peak, I felt like fulfilled, and then after that, it just became.
It's
When I
loud,
realized that
quiet,
it was,
loud, man. Loud, quiet,
yeah.
loud. It's just like Nirvana.
But when it got to the point where it was like midway through recrescendoing again, that it's like, oh, all right, I feel like you're just saying the same things over again with just different words. But I'll never know because I had such a I with subtitles on, had to keep pausing and rewinding shit because I couldn't. I had a hard time following what they were saying. Like I got the gist of what was happening because of like the context and the
That's
people
what
and
I was
everything.
saying. Like,
But
and I if I had trouble in that way, I would figure out what was going on by the context and the
yeah,
body language. And I think that's what makes this a really good way to digest, to expose somebody to Shakespeare, because it's like training wheels. You know, it's
Yeah.
like it's abridged. It's half as long, and it's it has a lot of, it's very visual, and it's not like, like you said, it's just people talking in stages, but the performances also, I think, carry a lot of the body language, the way they're speaking, like the musicality of their voices. There's a lot of people yelling and talking quietly. There's a lot of boisterous characters in the film, and I do want to talk about the cast and some of the actors, because there's a lot of people that you've seen in things.
There's a surprise cast that I didn't know until I read it in the opening credits.
So the one that got me was the guy who plays Hagrid, in Harry Potter, was the guy at the inn, who dies, and then they go they go visit him, and he tells these stories, and then he died. They find out he died. Like the guy with the messed up nose. There's the guy with the messed up nose.
Okay, yeah,
The guy,
yeah.
the corporal guy, and then there's the guy with the shitty teeth. And they go and visit this guy with a big fat man with a big hat and a big fancy mustache.
Yeah.
That's the
Okay, I
actor who
remember
plays
now.
Hagrid.
Oh man, I didn't even realize that. Because that's the one who's telling like banish everyone else, but don't banish me when you become king.
Yes.
Um, Okay, yeah, that's wow. I didn't realize that. Well, he looks great in this role. Like,
Yes. And obviously Christian Bale was the other big one.
that's the one that surprised the hell out of me because I saw his name. I was like, well, for '89, I have no idea what to expect for Christian Bale, and
I didn't notice his name in the opening, but I saw, as soon as I saw his boy face, I'm like, that. I recognize them choppers anywhere.
Fucking, he's got to be like what, like 16 in this, like.
Yeah, 14 maybe.
Yeah, he's so, but hearing his voice, and so like high pitched is so weird sounding because he sounds just like old Christian Bale with just a pitch correction. Like, it kept fucking with me the whole time, but he was cool in it. It was real cool.
Robbie Coltrane is the name of the actor who plays Hagrid.
Robbie Coltrane, what a name!
And apparently he plays Valentine from Goldeneye. Remember Valentine? He's one of the characters you could pick in Goldeneye.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Oh wow.
He was played
Based
by
on
Hagrid.
Hagrid.
He was based
Wow.
on Hagrid. Yeah. So there's this a big ensemble cast, and but there's some really cool little they're split up into acts, and some of the acts kind of are asides. Like I think one of them in particular is like not really that crucial to the story. And I found out the characters in that act, specifically their names are Bardolph, Nim, and Ancient Pistol. And those guys are apparently in multiple Shakespeare stories.
Oh,
and
interesting.
so yeah, I thought that was interesting too. There's like they're part of a a cinematic universe, if you will.
The Shakespeare cinematic universe.
the SCU, if you will.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Shakespeare came up like as far as literature and like narrative stuff. He or whoever, because some people say that Shakespeare didn't actually exist and is just actually compilation of a bunch of different writers. Some people think that he's a guy that stole the work of a bunch of different writers. So there's like no one knows. We don't really know who Shakespeare was actually.
That's so wild. How do we like teach and obsess of all of his literatures if we?
Well,
like,
he became a figure, like a legendary
Yeah.
figure, and we know these are attributed to him. But there's people that have theories about
Yeah.
it. But yeah, the scene with them were really interesting. And I wondered what the significance was to the film at large. But there's a scene later where one of them gets hanged for robbing a church. And then you're just like, oh man, like we got to hang out with you, you guys are cool, and it was like a sad moment with the king, and he had a relationship with that guy for a little bit, and but yeah.
Yeah, I thought Kenneth Branagh did a good job like conveying just like the not guilt, but just like the remorse because he didn't want to have to do it because he likes the guy, but he's trying to build this like better world and it has to have a zero tolerance thing. I don't know. It was cool. He did. I'm very impressed with Kenneth Branagh on this whole performance of the movie. Everything he did, it sold for me. And I believe it for the time, if that makes sense. Like even though it is a little theatrical, I would believe that everybody talks like that and just has that bravado and just like eccentricness. Because you'd have to be able to convince people that I know you're king, but still you got to convince people to want to overthrow France with you. It's kind of hard if you'd be like a kind of lame duck.
Yeah. It really is interesting because like how the movie starts. The first half of it is a bunch of just like dialogue scenes. And then the second half of the movie is like this huge multiple battles, and the battles really keep you entertained. And then there's the rousing speeches in between. I think that's the pacing of it, and the how it has energy that rises and falls. Those are the things that help it keep you engaged in it, even when even when you do struggle to follow the dialogue, to understand the dialogue. You are still able to follow what's going on, and I think it's very, very good for new people. As far as the film itself, it's not the best film I've ever seen. It's not a perfect movie to me. I don't know how to critique it because of it, because of what it's about. And I think that's the only really way you can lower it really is if you're, how you feel about how Shakespeare translates to the screen and as a film.
Yeah, that's where my critiques come in. I feel like it's very two-dimensional, which is it's a stage play, so it's built to be that. But that's one of the toughest things when adapting like a play like that to the stage is how do you create visually a three-dimensional set design and all that stuff. A lot of it just still feels like a perfect example is like whenever Hagrid, I'm just gonna call him Hagrid, but whenever Hagrid is dead and all the pistol and all them and the Christian boy are all just sitting on the steps with Judi Dench, are all sitting on the steps with Judi Dench, and they're just talking, and it's only cuts in for just a couple close-ups of whoever's talking, but it mainly holds in a wide, and it's just like that's a play. But it's like there's things like that. I feel like
I think it worked though. Like I like the melding of the play vibes into the cinematography, because there is cinematography at times.
Yeah,
like, it's not all two-dimensional, but largely like the battle is kind of the battle is specifically not the first one, but the big one is where it very much becomes three-dimensional, like a regular film. Like if the battle shot, I think there are battles that we've seen in films that have probably been influenced by the way this one was put together. It's done really well. But yeah, I can agree with that largely. So if you want to see if it looks flat, it could look flat to you. I wanted to talk about the style though that it has. Because we talked about the style in terms of the Shakespearean style, but I don't think we've talked about the style that it brings to Shakespeare, which like the intro, and all the stuff with the chorus, like with the introductions to the acts. The narrator played by Derek Jacobi. It's actually chorus is the name of that role in the Shakespeare play, and the chorus plays a part in multiple of his plays.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you how you felt about the modern day narrator just that walked in and out of the scenes.
I thought it was super fucking cool, and
Yeah.
at first I was like, "What?" I didn't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. It went the opening thing with they're on a set, like we're seeing behind the scenes of the movie. I was like, "Oh man, I'm a little worried about this." And but you know what I loved when he closed that door and then it reopened and we were in the old times. And at the very end of the movie, the door closes again and it's over. I thought that was so cool. I thought that was really good. I was like, "What?" I exclaimed at the beginning when it happened. There's moments like that where they're like, the style gives it some energy to such old stuff.
I didn't like him at first, but I what sold me on the whole thing in general was when he just shows up in the battle part and he just starts talking in the middle of the first battle.
He's like laying. He's like just pops out of the trench one time. Yeah, he lay in dirt the one time. Yeah, he's funny. Derek Jacobi's a great actor. Longtime veteran British actor. I know him from Doctor Who. He was the Master for a little while. He's a great actor. I don't know. I love that. I at first, like I said, I didn't know, but as soon as that door thing happened, I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
I like the when you have King Arthur and them walking up again up to the ocean, and then he just like walks up in his black trench coat and is just like, yeah, shit's going down. They're about to go here, and then the camera pans over to just like the beach and everything, and I don't know, it was cool. It was definitely an easier way to transition from things. It's not like and while I do like the opening narration in Dune from Lynch, this is done in a proper way.
I think that Red Letter Media just came out with a Dune comparison, and you got to see it because there's some things that we talked about that they talk about, and I think it's really funny. Particularly, they talk about the intro. They talk about the intro, and I thought it was really good. But yeah. Overall, though, I very much enjoyed this. I was very surprised at how much I did. I was expecting a 3 for me, and I'm not saying it's much higher than that, but I was like, I was also prepared to be bored, and I was neither.
Yes.
I was not bored.
I was prepared to be bored, and I was mostly not bored. My thing is just I felt like a lot of the monologues they felt like they went on too long. This is something, it's another one of those things where it's like shave 10-15 minutes off and I might have a completely different opinion, but it's such a big story and this is already cut down into 2 hours 17, so it's I gotta pick and choose my battles.
Exactly. That's why I think I'm a little more forgiving with that, as keeping in mind that the most of the plays are like 4 hours long. I wanted to talk about Emma Thompson. We haven't brought up Emma Thompson yet. How did you feel about her scenes and her whole part? Because obviously her character is not written very well in a modern way as far as what she does and And
we're referring to the princess, his cousin.
Yeah, yes, Princess is played by Emma Thompson.
They
eventually got married. They got married after this movie in real life. They've divorced since then. Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson.
Okay, I thought you were gonna say, I was like, yeah, there was a wedding scene at the end of the movie. What do you mean?
Yeah, Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson.
Interesting, but I liked it. I loved the playfulness of the scene.
I liked the language scene. I liked the interpreter scene, but then I felt like
didn't do subtitles.
I feel like the scenes with after that were weird. I was like expecting more from her character after that really good first scene.
But does she have much else after that until he comes?
She has the scene with him. He has the scene with him when he tries to kiss her and she says no.
Yeah, and that's then,
and
then the marriage scene.
Then they get married at the end and she doesn't talk for any of that.
Yeah.
And the movie ends. Yeah, I think I didn't really like that, but that's kind of a product of the source material a little bit.
And I guess this goes back sort of to you, but based on this movie, like if this movie was it, I would say that doesn't even need to be in there.
Yeah, I would say that as well, and I felt that way. You could have, you could have even made, if you were gonna make her background, if she was gonna be background, you could just made it even more background, like just not even have the translator scene.
Yeah, and there's your 15 minutes gone.
I think they wanted to give her a good scene since she's gonna be in it. Yeah, that's basically it. Oh, I have a couple weird notes. I know in multiple scenes people spit on themselves in this movie because they're delivering so powerfully. It's not just Kenneth Branagh, though he does it more than once.
Yeah.
It's like I think they like do it on purpose to like it's to convey the passion. Like I don't even care that I'm talking so loud, I'm spitting on myself. But yeah, multiple characters do it. Angel Pistol does it once. Actually, probably a couple times. He's kind of gross. Yeah, a lot of spitting on themselves because everybody's just so passionate and yelling. We talked about Brian Blessed on this, or was that beforehand? Because
we talked about it earlier on the other one.
His performance is pretty subdued on this, but he is like notorious for having really big performances. He's got a huge mouth. Do you know that he played Boss Nass in Phantom Menace?
In Phantom Menace?
Yeah.
Boss Nass. Oh, okay. I had to think
the
for a second.
Gungan leader.
Yeah. Oh, I did not know that. I didn't even know who this dude was until now.
Yeah, he's in a lot. He's in other things. He's done voice acting.
Love his voice. It's so good.
Yeah, he's got a good voice. That's definitely his thing.
He sounds like the cool doctor with the earring from Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, and I love it. I can't unhear that.
Matt Berry, isn't that Matt Berry?
I don't know. He's like the.
Excuse me.
What is it? How does he go? He's like, "You're not going to get away with this, Garth." Like that kind of guy. Like
I think
sounds
that's
ridiculous.
Matt Berry. I'm pretty sure that's Matt Berry.
All right, if that's the case, then yeah, they sound very very like to me. But the battle. This is my funny note that I want to talk about. The big battle. It's after the battle's over. They've already counted the dead. And Kenneth Branagh's got Christian Boy on his back. And so the whole time I'm watching this because it goes,
Christian Boy died.
Yeah. And so it's about what felt like 5 to 10 minutes. It's at least 5, but it felt like 5 to 10 minutes of Kenneth Branagh
the tracking
and everybody trucking through the woods.
That was dope. Oh my god, I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot. That was cool.
So yeah, it's cool, but the whole time I'm watching it, I just kept thinking, this motherfucker. He's like, I'm starring in my own movie that I'm directing. I'm gonna have this scene where I'm just the coolest fucking god guy, just walking through this shit. We're gonna hold on it for like 10 minutes straight. And I just like jokingly thinking this to myself, and I was just like, yeah.
Honestly, there is a little bit. He gives off that vibe, and the character of Henry V seems. I was waiting for him. I didn't remember. I don't know the story, so I thought that he was gonna he's gonna eat shit at some point in this hero's journey because he's so fucking cocky, and confident and kind of douchey sometimes in this movie. And I just like expected something to happen, and it never did. I'm just nope. This is just straight power fantasy.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm so cool and good that I'm writing in this 10-minute scene of just me. It's not 10, it's more like 5. There's 5 minutes uninterrupted, uncut of walking. And I'm going to carry this boy. And everyone's going to think I'm cool.
Well, I think about the scene, and this is more about the Shakespeare probably, but the scene at the camp at night when he's like, I'm gonna disguise myself and hang out with my troops and then tell them how cool I am and tell them how, and they're like well, they're like talking shit on the king, and then he's like, well, I think the king's a pretty cool guy. and I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. I don't know if it's supposed to be.
Is it meant to be funny? Yeah, I don't know if it's meant to be.
I don't. Yeah. So I thought because it's like, man, what a douche. Man, the king is a douche.
He is. He's kind of. I mean, he drinks his own Kool-Aid. Like he believes it.
He believes his hype, and I think he tries to use that energy to lead his men to battle. Like let my bravado and confidence, carry you all. Because like I think the final battle is 4-1 or something like that. Like they're outmanned 4-1.
I think it's 5-1.
Yeah, something like that, and they win, and because of the archers. And
I was gonna say, how the fuck did the French not have archers too? That's what I didn't understand. If you're doing this big ass battle, why doesn't everybody have archers?
It might be like the I don't know, but the British are because I know this from Age of Empires too. But the British have long bowmen, and they shoot extra far. They're famous for their longbows. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
what was happening here, but
'cause
that's what my headcanon was.
yeah, I was like, this felt like 300, this battle. And I think it's supposed to feel like 300. Like, oh, I mean, not the new movie, but you know what I mean. With all
It's
like
one of those
the
kind of stories, yeah.
yeah, like the
Beaten
the scrappy stakes in the ground.
yeah, insurmountable odds.
Yeah, the fucking just all the bows even look like they were just made that day out of whatever
Yeah,
they could
they
find.
did not look
like,
good. Those shots were not the best shots of the movie of the
Yeah,
bows being shot. I thought
you can
that.
tell all of the money went into the 100 guys on screen slapping each other with swords. Definitely none went into the bows, but
yeah.
I mean, it's fine. I like the battle scene overall, though. I thought it was
Battle
cool.
scene was awesome. It's the best part of the movie.
Yeah,
I thought the first battle scene was good because the ridiculous the siege. Well, it was like we all ran in and then they all ran out. It kind of reminded me of Monty Python a little bit because they all ran in and then like run away.
Like I got so confused because it was like I thought they just ran in and then it looks like they run out, but then it cuts back to them and they like won the town and they're in again. And it was, well, how the fuck? Like what? I don't know. It was hard to like find your place in the setting. If that makes sense.
Everyone's just so muddy also in this movie.
Yeah,
everyone's wet because it's always raining. It's always lightly raining, and everybody's covered in mud.
Yeah, and it was the way that the soldier outfits were too. I was like, man, is no one wearing armor or whatever? But they are. It's just they have like
leather.
It's like when we wear t-shirts over our shoulder pads.
Yeah, gambesons. Oh yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah, t-shirts over shoulder pads.
But it was cool though. I like that because of the UK is so many different things. Everyone's wearing like different crests and stuff, but it's like they're all the same team, but even though none of them are all wearing like uniform crests.
Because the feudalism, like they're working from different dukes and whatnot.
Yeah, and I like that that King Harry wore like the French saints thing on his outfit because he believes to be himself as the King of France. That was cool. I was just I don't think that I wasn't crazy about his just bright blue and red outfit until it became dirty after the battle. Then it looked cool, but I don't know. It was cool. I thought the battle was a little long, but it was definitely the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I liked it. But I think I was into the before the battle, honestly, even more. Like I was like the battle was the payoff and I enjoyed the payoff, but I was really into the build up before that with the, like I said, the camp scene and the first battle and like the scene where they hung that guy. I was interested in the stuff with the ancient pistol and the Randolph or whatever his fucking name is. I thought the stuff was all good, and then the battle was just kind of like the payoff. And then I was kind of expecting it to end not far long after that, and I think there was just like one extra scene after that than I thought, and so then I think I was starting to check out by the end.
Yeah, because they have the whole thing talking about they killed all the boys in the luggage. You can't do that; it's against the rules. And then you have Kenneth Branagh's red carpet walk in the for 5 minutes, and then after that, it's like some more talking stuff as they're like they go over the dead count and everything, which also nuts. They lost 30 people and the French lost 10,000. How the fuck does that even happen? Like if you're down 5-1, that just seems like you're losing more than 30 people. But I don't know. I guess
it don't add up. But I guess we're not supposed to. We're not supposed to think too much about that. Yeah. But all right, I think I'm ready to wrap it up here. What are you giving Henry V?
I'm sitting at 3.5.
I think I'm sitting at 3.5 also.
2 3.5s for you today.
Oh, actually, I gave it a 4. I gave it a 4 earlier, but I think I'm bumping it down to a 3.5. Definitely
cool.
Good.
Yeah, and I'm down to watch more of this.
Hamlet's supposed to be his magnum opus, but Hamlet is for it's like not abridged. Like he's like, I got to do one where I go all out and we don't abridge this shit. And I think that's fair considering this is his thing. But yeah, it's supposed to be the magnum opus.
I wonder if there's a shot of him, since they have the runtime of him just walking, tracking for 10, 20 minutes, just fucking carrying two bags of like feed and just shirtless and hunky.
He did Murder on the Orient Express a few years ago.
I saw that, yeah. I didn't realize that was him. Kenneth Branagh is one of those things where it's like I had heard the name before, but I never knew what from. And then the first Thor movie came out, and it was like, and everyone says when I read into the movie, it's like, oh, like big time director Kenneth Branagh, like big being like he's like well acclaimed. And then after that, I was like, kind of didn't really know anymore of what. I didn't look into it enough, but yeah, this is super cool. He's definitely on my list of directors that I really want to get into more.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot to glean from his work because of the theater that comes through. That's its perspective that you're just not going to see as much from just film guys.
Yeah, it's what is that, the Nicolas Cage thing? He like tries to bring theater into everything he does, and that's why
his
it's so
performances.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Definitely. But yeah, I'm excited. Let me look at the calendar real quick. And we can think about what we're doing. What's next week?
I think we have
House of Gucci: The Last Duel.
I heard House of Gucci is not getting good reviews.
And Last Duel got good reviews but bombed. I don't even know how we're gonna. That's the thing, is I don't know how we're gonna watch Last Duel because I don't know where you can see it.
Is it not? Is it?
It's not in streaming yet, and it's no longer in theaters.
Oh, it's no longer in theaters.
Mm-mm.
Jeez, how did that happen? I thought it just came out.
It came out a couple months ago.
Oh,
House of Gucci just came out.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting.
I think it came out in October.
I'm just curious because Adam Driver's in both of them, and they're also both the same director.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to see them together. We'll have to see if we can find something out. But at the very least, let's do House of Gucci.
If we'll just have to replace the other with Prometheus.
We can do another Ridley Scott movie if we can't figure out a way to do The Last Duel. But I feel like I really wanted to compare these two movies because, like, I think it's interesting for a director to release two movies this close together.
Yeah, especially because of the circumstances.
And we've already done one of his films, and I've seen a couple of his films recently, so I'm ready to talk about Ridley Scott.
I was gonna say if we can't find this, The Martian is a good one that could replace it because it still has Matt Damon. So does The Last Duel, and I haven't seen The Martian.
Matt Damon. Yeah, I would like to watch a good one. I've seen Hannibal recently, and it's okay, but it's not great. Yeah, that's the thing about Ridley Scott is he's got good movies, but he's also got some stankies.
Wait, he did Hannibal, like the Science of the
He didn't do the
sequel?
original. Yeah, he did the sequel, not the original.
Wow, I didn't know he did the second one. The second one was the first one that I had seen out of the three of them.
Yeah, I saw it recently because we've been on a Hannibal kick.
Nice.
But yeah, I'll have to update y'all of what we end up doing. I'll try to see if I can find a maybe some kind of thing. Wink, wink. But honestly, we should probably pick something that everybody can watch. So maybe we'll have to come back to this. But he's also done Gladiator and Black Hawk Down, and I like those movies.
Those are very good. I would watch Gladiator again. That's one I haven't seen forever.
The first Alien is probably. Oh, we should honestly consider that because that's one of my favorite horror movies, probably.
I'd be down with that. I figured we'd try to stray away from the franchise stuff to fit with House of Gucci, but
that's true. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's actually a good point. Well,
because Aliens should be its own like episode with the other Alien, like, to compare with Aliens. I would think, but because it's like two big time directors and two different ways to do like that subject matter.
I agree. That'd be good to do them together. Okay.
All right, you got me. Fine. Alien Covenant. We're in. Lock it.
No, fuck that. No way. All right, we'll figure that out, and we'll come back next week. Me and Kory are gonna do some talking after the episode and try to think about we'll try to stack some ammo in case. I know that this was a late one this week, just due to some emergencies. I'm all right, but some health things, and we will yeah, we'll regroup and we'll get some stuff ready for you, and we'll keep the hits coming.
Yeah.
All right.
Train don't stop. No stops.
Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe on all the things: Spotify, YouTube, all everywhere that you can listen to podcasts. And yeah, let the world know how you feel about the boys.
Yep. Please say nice things.
All right, have a good one, y'all. Bye.
See you, everybody.